So this is kind of a question, an odd question that popped up on something. So I left it on here. It says, is it possible to draw an even degree polynomial with no x-intercepts? So remember, evens, the tails point the same way, so it's going to look something like this or like this. X-intercepts would mean it hits the x-axis. Because that turns like that, it's really easy to draw one. I can just draw this. All right, there is an even degree polynomial with no x-intercepts. So is it possible to draw one with no x-intercepts? Absolutely. I could draw lots of different ones with no x-intercepts because the tails turn in the same direction, it's very easy to have it not cross the x-axis. If I have an odd one, all right, so I have an odd one. I'm going to put some like typed out notes to explain why or why not. If I have an odd one, because the tails point in the opposite direction, if I start it here, even if I like turn it around for a minute, it has to turn and go the other way because the tails have to go in opposite directions. So it doesn't matter what I do, it's always going to have at least one intercept. It's always going to have at least one. It's impossible to draw one that's not going to cross because if it's going to go from negative infinity to positive infinity, at some point it's going to have to cross the x-axis. So what I'm going to say here is for this one, I'm going to say since the tails go in opposite directions, it is impossible that this graph would not cross the x-axis. And then I'm going to say here, since tails go in the same direction, it is very easy to have a graph that does not cross the x-axis. And one final thing here, remember, just because it doesn't cross the x-axis doesn't mean it doesn't have solutions. They're just imaginary solutions, meaning that when you do it, you'll get a square root of a negative and you'll get an I in your answer. So if it's above the axis like that, that just means there's not going to be any real solutions at all. All right. Just like this second graph here has one real solution, but it probably has some solutions in this area down here where it turns around a couple times, and they're going to be imaginary solutions because they're not